Welcome to Two Chicks and a Horror Flick, a weekly horror movie review podcast. I'm Tawny Ray.
And I'm Felicia Connor. Subscribe to get new episodes every Wednesday. We dive into trivia, drink a little whiskey, and of course, give our no BS opinions.
Join our Discord server or message us on social media to talk all things scary.
And if you like the show, consider supporting us on Patreon.
You can find all these links on our website, twochicksandahorrorflick.com. Thanks for listening.
Now let's get scared. Hello, hello. Welcome to our this is going to be our third October episode, right?
Yes.
Third October episode. Nice. This one is a Felicia pick, and hopefully Tawny still loves her after. I chose Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. And so before we talk about that, Tawny, what are you drinking?
I've got some bourbon with just a little bit of ice mixed in. What are you drinking?
I have water and I have a pomegranate fizz stick in a beer. Sometimes when I don't want to drink, but I still want to feel like I'm drinking, I'll put it in the beer stein. I overindulged this weekend. I don't feel sick or anything, but it was just like Friday we had off surprisingly after a hard week. So, we ate and we drank. I had martinis. Then on Saturday, all the kids were gone, hanging out and doing their own thing. So Steve and I ate and had old fashions.
Nice.
So today I felt, just like I had overindulged and want to take it easy.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I overindulged on Friday night. So yesterday was my taking it easy day.
Nice.
We went and did a dinner party for Paige and Trevor's birthday. And it was very fucking fun because we ate outside. They made incredible food and it was all like spooky themed. And we all told ghost stories. Like that was the only rule of the party, was like bring a ghost story, fake, like one of your own or one that you found online or whatever. So that was super fun because we just ate and told scary stories and felt like when you're like young, a teenager, and you do like sleepovers and you tell people scary stories. It was a really good time. But I ended up drinking a lot. I just stopped paying attention. I usually like meticulously count my drinks because I don't know. I track things, and I did not that night, so I don't even know how much I drank. I just got a little crazy. But it was fun.
Good. That's awesome. That sounds fun. What have you been watching, listening to, reading?
Real quick, we have a new Patreon member, Shenanigans.
Love it.
That I want to read their message. Shenanigans said, "Thank you, chickies, for creeping it real. Cryptid scary."
Yeah, I love it. Love it.
On that note, we definitely both watched Halloween Ends, which we talked about. We're actually going to put a little mini-sode on our Patreon for our patron members. But what else did I watch? Let's see.
Oh, Tawny and I, after recording with BVK, we had such a freaking blast that we were amped after that recording, and it ended late. It was like almost midnight. It was probably midnight for you. We were amped. And so we decided to do, me and her, a watch party and watched Goodnight Mommy, the new one, the remake on Amazon.
Yes, the one with Naomi Watts.
Yes.
So that was fun because we did like basically a watch along. It was so funny. It was like, middle of the night. And I posted like that fucking GIF from Drake that like got the club going up on a Tuesday.
Yes.
I didn't go to bed until like 3 a.m. Oh my God. It was a rough next day, I'm going to be honest. But it was super fun. And that was interesting. There's some good and some bad, I feel like, on that remake.
Yeah. I think there were some things we liked and some things that we preferred in the original.
Yeah. So, let's talk about that though. Let's talk about being on BVK. So it stands for Bev's Video Kingdom. And it's this super fun podcast. Definitely go check them out. They don't just talk about horror. They talk about like any type of movie. And their format is really cool because they do a movie. They talk about a movie. And then they do another episode where they do a draft. So for the ones that we were on, there was an episode where we talked about High Tension. Mm-hmm. And then they did a second episode that was a draft. So all of the members of their podcast do a draft order and then get to pick, and they picked the most memorable scary scenes in non-horror movies. Yeah. And when they first sent us this, Felicia and I both we were like, oh, we don't know that much about movies in general to do this, and they were like, don't worry, you're going to judge it. And we were like, oh, fucking K, we're here for judging.
Yes.
So that's what we got to do, is we got to come in and be the judges on that episode and assign points. So super, super fun. Definitely check that out. We'll post about it on our social media when it comes out. And we're looking to have them on our podcast. And they are just a fucking joy. They were so fun to hang out with.
They were, all of them. Yeah. All of them. It was literally like we did a bunch of coke. And I don't, do coke. I just, from what I've seen in movies and stuff, that's what it felt like once the episode was done. I was just, oh my God, Tawny, we have so much fun. We got to keep going.
Yeah.
Can't go to bed. The blast. Glad. It was so much fun. Those guys are so cool and funny. And it was real comfortable. Yeah. And yeah, just a blast.
Oh, they were so funny. So we'll keep updated on when we can get them on our podcast as well. Other things that I watched the new Hellraiser, and I watched Speak No Evil, which I messaged Felicia and said, we need to move this up on the list and do it ASAP. And that's on Shudder. And then I watched Deadstream. I kind of half watched that. I was getting towards the end of my horror movie marathon yesterday, so it was fun. Not really much else to note, though, because we're going to talk about Speak No Evil, I'm sure, later.
Yeah, we're going to do that episode soon. I started to watch The Watcher on Netflix.
Oh, yeah. No. Okay, I keep fucking mixing these up. Not Watcher, which is a movie.
The Watcher.
The Watcher.
It's
this is
series.
The new Netflix show. Okay.
Yes, and it's based off a true crime. My daughter follows this true crime person on TikTok and shared the video with me. Like, look at this, Mom. It's a creepy story. And then I saw it in Netflix and I messaged her. So we partied it together.
Oh, fun.
While she was in college. Yeah. And so we've only seen a few episodes. So far, I like it. It's creepy. It's like, what? I'm trying not to look up the actual crime and what has happened, but I want to, and I probably will. After that, last night, we watched finally Where the Crawdads Sing.
Oh, okay.
And if you've heard other episodes, it is my favorite book of all times, like To Kill a Mockingbird and Where the Crawdads Sing. I absolutely adore this book. So I have been putting off watching this movie. I was just very scared that they weren't going to do it justice. And it's very emotional for me. I'm scarred by the dark half. I'll never, ever forget about that. So I've been pushing it off. But my husband was like, let's watch it. Come on. And I had some old fashions and I was feeling relaxed. And I was like, all right, let's do it. I fucking loved it. He did too. It was so good. I was crying in the end. I think they did a really nice job of incorporating the important parts of the book to really have this beautiful story. The acting was really good. I get nervous when I see like the whole cast. I've never seen them before in anything. Yeah. They were all so good. And I'm very, very, very happy.
Good. I'm so glad because I thought you might hate it. I saw this with a bunch of work friends. I'm sure we talked about this on some podcast episode. I don't remember which one. But I didn't think it was terrible, but I've never read the book. So the people who read the book were not happy.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't know. It felt all right. I don't think it was like an insanely like life-changing movie. You know, like I wasn't like, I didn't leave feeling like, oh my fucking God, that was great. But it was higher than my expectations, mostly because that's just not my type of movie. So I was expecting it to be like real, real bad. And so I was like, oh shit, that's pretty good. I don't know. But I'm glad you liked it and had a good experience.
I had a great time. It was a really good movie.
I did not expect you to say that. I thought you were going to say that you watched the Gabby Petito thing.
Oh shit, I did. Okay. Sorry. So we watched the Gabby Petito thing as well. Thank you for reminding me. Right before we watched Where the Crawdads Sing. So we started with that. And then we moved into the Crawdads. So the Gabby Petito, it was good. It was interesting. I think it's very obvious they can't tell Brian Laundrie's story. I'm sure the parents did not want to participate. There's probably still some legal stuff pending. It was very apparent because they only told her side. So it was interesting to see, not her side, I didn't mean it like that, but like from her from her story. They only showed her story. And it was interesting to see, though, because you get to have those glimpses of their relationship that we don't know yet, as far as when they first met and as their relationship was growing, different things and conversations that they had when they were on the trip together.
Yeah.
And I just kept saying to myself, oh my gosh, this poor sweet baby. I'm just thinking of there's these two young people in a very toxic relationship, and this poor sweet girl, she was just so sweet, and like really excited about life. And I'm not going to give anything away. I'm sure if anybody knows the story, this has been conveyed about Gabby, wanting to be an influencer and just like really bubbly and full of life. And for that to be ended, it's just, I mean, obviously murder is always a waste. It's just that I really left with that feeling, how sad that is. And then wanting to know more, of course, about Brian's story, as far as like when he went back to his parents' house and when they were camping, like all this stuff, that was all this crazy stuff going on, but there's none of that. So it was very obvious, like I just mentioned, that they probably aren't allowed to talk about it. And the last thing I want to say is it's directed by Thora Birch, and she was in it. And it made me think, because we just talked about Hocus Pocus. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see how that would be a major problem. I think with the rise of interest and obsession with true crime, now there's like more of a return on investment. There's a reason to like churn these things out, which is making them closer to the crime itself. Mm-hmm. Like this just happened, like a year, 2 years ago? Yeah. Maybe? Tops. Like
last year, right?
Litigation takes a long time, right?
Yeah.
And going through like investigations and stuff, like that takes a long time. And so it's interesting how it's almost like you got to wait, you got to wait and wait and wait for the full story to be told almost, once everything is wrapped up and done. Otherwise, like you're saying, you kind of don't want to show your hand as the people investigating. I don't know super details about this case, but it's just interesting to me.
Yeah. So there was that. And of course, we don't know how it happened, or, I mean, we know how she died, and he did admit to it in his diary. But yeah, it was a good look into Gabby and who she was and this relationship for sure.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. It's
all
worth
right.
a watch. All right. Want to get into this? Anything else we're forgetting?
Do it? No, I don't. I don't think so. Other than, I mean, obviously our last episode was you weren't there. You obviously didn't get killed, murdered camping. Have you listened to our episode?
Oh, no, I haven't listened to it yet. Okay. I'm going to listen to it this week.
We joked in the beginning as I was like, yeah, Felicia's camping. And Paige was like, I was like, for the first time ever. That's correct, right? You had not been camping before.
Never.
Okay. And she was like, oh, good. I'm so glad that Felicia has so many movies to draw upon about why it's scary camping. She was like, she's probably getting murdered out there. And I was like, listen, if somebody's getting murdered, it's not fucking Felicia. I can tell you that right now. Felicia's never getting murdered. She's just like, she's too careful. She knows too much. Like, it's not happening. And so in our little show notes, I wrote like, Felicia's out camping, but not getting murdered.
I love it. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to listen this week. Yeah, I did not get murdered. And actually, it wasn't scary. Even the first night when we were the only people there, I didn't feel scared, even at night. And then other people, the campsites are really nicely kind of spread out. But as more people arrived in their little campsites, then it was like even less scary.
Until you came back, right? Because then... tell the people the little nugget that you learned about aliens.
Oh, that's right. So when we were doing research for the scariest scenes in a non-horror film for the episode with BVK, I was looking at one of the options was Fire in the Sky. And that movie absolutely scarred and terrified me when I saw it in high school. Found out those guys from Fire in the Sky were in Arizona. We're kind of like where I was camping. That fucking UFO could have come and like sucked us up. And I did not realize how close we were to that thing happening.
Yeah,
I was home. Scarier. I was home. It would have been way scary. I wouldn't have let anyone out of their tents. Don't look at the sky. Oh, but on the other hand, ooh, what a great story to tell everybody sitting around the campfire.
Oh, yeah.
And then be like, so this is a supposedly true story, and it happened right here.
Right here. Oh, yeah. Oh.
Darn it.
Damn. You
well,
missed
if we go back, I don't think the kids, I didn't share that with the kids. When you go, if we go back, if we go back, I don't know if I can. Yeah. I don't even know if we can go back. I wouldn't scare Steve because he's just like, oh, that's stupid.
Yeah.
That's fake. That's fake.
Whatever.
All right.
Anyway, that was the last thing.
No, thanks for bringing that
update.
up. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay. Oh, I can say though, with the camping situation, I almost froze to death. I think I almost literally died. I had some sinus infection. So when I went up, the first night I was just tossing and turning. I was so sick. Then the night after it was like 40. I swear it was like high 30s.
Okay.
I was so cold. I was shivering. I thought I was going to die. Everyone else was fine. And then the last night it was real nice. I got all bundled. Steve gave me extra like sleeping bag things to put on me. But,
okay.
Yeah. So I did almost die. Just not, I wasn't murdered.
But not by murder. Okay.
Correct. Okay. All right. Everyone, we're watching Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. It was made in 1982. So I was 5. I was 5 when it came out, and I was probably 5 when I saw it. I was definitely very little. Watched it on Peacock. The director was Tommy Lee Wallace, and he has also done Fright Night Part 2, and also directed the 1990 television miniseries adaptation of Stephen King's epic horror novel, It.
Okay. I was like,
okay.
It sounded familiar. Yeah.
I think was also the art director on Halloween 1. So knew John Carpenter.
Okay.
The writer ended up being Tommy Lee Wallace and John Carpenter, but John Carpenter is not credited for that.
Okay. What else has he written? Do you know, Tommy Lee Wallace?
Yeah, it goes right into him as a director. So sorry, everybody.
Okay, no worries. Keep going.
Let's get into the cast. I didn't write down a whole lot of people, but Tom Atkins was Daniel Chalice. I guess Stacey Nelkin was Ellie Grimbridge. Just so much stuff makes me smile. Dan O'Herlihy is Connell Cochran. And Nancy, this is such a small part, but I had to say Nancy Keys is Nancy Chalice, and was Annie Brackett from Halloween 1. She was the babysitter.
Okay, wait.
The main character, the doctor, his wife was Annie Brackett, who was the babysitter in Halloween 1. It was Laurie's best friend with the brown hair who was babysitting the little girl.
Gotcha. Okay.
Very small part, but I had to mention it. Yeah. Stats budget was $2.5 million. The box office was $14.4 million. Despite it making money, it is the worst performing of the Halloween franchise. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 47%, IMDb 5.1 out of 10, and Letterboxd was 3.0 out of 5.
Okay.
All right. Now we're ready with 2 Minutes with Tawny.
I'm about to spoil the shit out of this movie. And for the first time in my life, I actually don't super recommend that you go watch this movie. You can just listen to my 2 Minutes with Tawny, and it's going to tell you everything you need to know about this movie. But if you really want to watch it, turn back now. Here we go. A few days before Halloween, a man clutching a silver Shamrock brand mask is admitted to the hospital. Dr. Chalice is tending to him, and the patient says that they are going to kill everyone. He dies that night from having his eyes gouged out by a man in a business suit. Something you should know about Dr. Chalice. This man fucks. Somehow a major ladies' man. Every fucking woman in town wants to bang him, except for his ex-wife, who fucking loathes him. That's why when the daughter of the patient, Ellie, shows up, she finds herself strangely attracted to him and his 80s mustache. They decide to go to the Silver Shamrock Mask Factory so they can find some answers. They end up staying the night so that they can find some more stuff out, I guess, but mostly so that they can fuck. While they're fucking, the woman next door...
It's so good.
While they're fucking, the woman next door in the hotel picks up a tag that fell off a mask and it fires a laser blast into her face, killing her. A group of men in suits show up with the factory. I can see you in the corner of my eye, and it's making me laugh too. Okay. A group of men in suits show up with the factory owner. Now I've got the giggles. Okay. Mr. Cochran, and they take her body to the factory. Ellie is kidnapped and taken to the factory. Chalice follows them and is attacked by a suit man. Chalice punches his hand through his abdomen, revealing that the suit man is actually a robot.
Oh.
At this point, Chalice gives up on fighting and is taken by Cochran to a hidden room in the factory housing a stolen piece of Stonehenge. Cochran explains that they're putting a piece of Stonehenge in each mask, and a Silver Shamrock commercial will activate them at 9 p.m. tonight, which is Halloween night. Makes sense. And it will kill children across the world. And then snakes and bugs will crawl out of their heads. Cochran ties up Dr. Chalice and makes him watch Halloween 1. He explains more about his motive, which is to sacrifice a bunch of children in the tradition of his Celtic pagan ancestors, I think. Still nothing on what the benefit of this is. Anyway, thankfully our hero, Dr. Chalice, escapes and rescues Ellie. From here, Chalice basically pours a bunch of mask tags over the robots, which kills them. Cochran then explodes, which causes the factory to burn down. Ellie and Chalice drive away, but Ellie grabs his face and causes them to crash because, guess what? She's a robot now. There are 3 more jump scares of Robot Ellie attacking Chalice before he runs to a gas station. He calls the TV stations and begs them to cut the feed of the commercial. The end.
That was the best 2 minutes with Tawny that I have ever experienced. That was the best. Oh my God.
I had to go in on this one.
It was so good. It was just what you were saying was so funny. And then me thinking about the movie again, just all of it together was just a really great experience. Okay, Tawny, what'd you think about this movie?
This is gonna shock you. I fucking hated this. This was one of the worst fucking movies I've ever seen, in my opinion. I don't want to be too mean about it, but oh my God, I just was like, what the fuck am I watching? And I will say in some places, there are moments that it is so bad it's good. Like, but not the movie as a whole. I'm not going to say that about the movie as a whole. There are scenes that are so bad they're good. But the movie as a whole, it was none of it made sense. And it was also very boring through like 80%. And I just was like, what the fuck am I cannot wait to talk shit about all the things I fucking didn't like about this movie. I took so many notes. I have a whole page and a fucking half of notes. I never take that many notes. That's how intensely I felt about this. But I was like, oh God, it just was like, it was a rough one. It was a fucking rough one. So I'm sorry. I hope that we can still be friends. And I also hope that you had the same experience kind of that I did. It's different for you because you watched it as a kid. There's nostalgic ties. There's none of that for me. I haven't seen any of this movie and I didn't know a fucking thing going in, except I knew it had nothing to do with Michael Myers. I knew it was like a standalone story. So like that didn't bother me just because I was prepared for it. But that's where I landed. I'm hoping that there is something that you can tell me to talk me up. But,
I don't know if I have anything to talk you up.
That's what I was thinking is I just don't see what you're going to tell me to make me feel differently.
I think this is going to be a fun conversation. I had fun watching this terrible movie. I think that's pretty much where me and Steve watched it with me. We were just busting up. So I think it was fun. It was fun to watch it because we were busting up. But yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good. So it was just enjoyable because it was so fucking ridiculous. And me and Steve just going back and forth, with commenting about the movie. It was just a whole lot of fun. There is the nostalgia. It did not save the movie at all.
Okay.
I must have saw this movie literally when I was 5, 6, or 7.
Yeah.
Because the things that I remember I still did like.
Okay.
I liked the masks. I liked the idea of the story where all of these kids would go out and buy these masks. It's totally believable, that aspect of it, as far as people kill each other to get the hottest Christmas toy for their kid, right?
Yeah,
so if everyone was like, oh, we want these masks, everyone would grab them. I liked that kids were targeted because that scared me as a kid. And I remember also being freaked out by I loved that little cartoon and the music, that hypnotic thing. I remember that. And that's why when we were at the horror convention, when they had the house with the TV, I was so excited because that is like what I remembered. I didn't remember all the bad things.
Right.
And the last thing I'll say was I thought it was a scary idea as a kid that the whole town was in on something evil happening. That scared me. So those elements, when I saw them again the other night, I still liked them. I was like, oh, I remember this is what I liked, but I did not remember all the fucking and all of it. I just did not.
I know the other 90% of this movie.
Yeah, I did not remember that.
Yeah, I question, and like, if you are a person that you've seen this movie and you like it, like, good on you. But I question, because there have been many comments in the last little bit. I think it's because Halloween Ends just came out, so people are talking a lot about Halloween, the franchise, and people are talking about Halloween Ends in connection with this movie because they used the same title kind of treatment, like graphic treatment, the blue italicized line, text or whatever. And so I've been reading a lot of comments where people are like, Season of the Witch is actually like a really good and fun movie. And I just question, like, but have you seen it recently? Like, I guess I could see how this would live in your mind as like, exactly what you're saying. The masks, the TV commercial, even the last part with like Stonehenge and the like robots. Like, I feel like that living in your, nostalgia brain, psyche. Yeah. Like I could see how you would think, oh yeah, that was a good movie, right? Because the basic premise is that these masks are going to kill a bunch of people and it's triggered by a commercial. Like that as an idea by itself is not a bad one. I like that idea. Everything built around it is just fucking, and I was like, 90% of this movie is boring as fuck. I just, like 10 minutes in, I was like, I want this to be fucking over. You know what I mean? Like I just was like, I was watching it by myself. So I actually think that it didn't help because had somebody else watched it with me, and actually I did make Jade today rewatch the lowlights is what I called it. Like I just like skipped to the like funny shit and was like, you have to watch these scenes. And that was fun and funny because we were both like, what the fuck is this? So it would have been more fun watching with somebody else. I do feel like this would be a good watch party movie,
Yeah, just
kind of to joke about it. Yeah.
Drink and joke and just, I agree with everything you just said. how about the very first thing that pops into my mind? That car crushing death.
Rough, dude.
Oh my God.
I was like, okay, dead.
What?
Immediately dead.
For the car was so slow. It barely like kind of pinched it. Like it didn't even crush him. It just like touched his arm and he looked up, dead. And me and Steve started busting up. Like, what the fuck was that? He wouldn't have even had a bruise on his arm. It was so absurd.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then that guy escapes, runs to this guy who takes him to the hospital, right? Okay, sorry if I'm skipping over anything you want to add. Let me just open my fucking novel notes. But then the guy takes him to the hospital and is the most sketchy motherfucker for no fucking reason. He's like, and this is where I started to feel like, oh, because I had some fucking problems with the dialogue that we could talk about later. But I went back and watched Halloween 1 today to watch the dialogue because I thought it was written by the same people. Like I thought I read that John Carpenter had wrote it. And I just thought, I don't remember the dialogue in Halloween 1 being this rough. There were some moments I didn't like because they ad-libbed, right?
Yeah.
But that's one thing. This movie is something else entirely. And then I noticed that guy felt like he was doing that same ad-lib thing. And he just was he was like, I'm not in any trouble, right? Everything's fine. Like, it's fine. I don't need anything. And then he fucking takes off down the hall and runs away. Like, okay, that guy is now super suspect, but that's not a thing at all. We never come back to it. So
yeah,
that's fine.
He totally didn't want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. So we're in the hospital and oh God, this has made me very happy. Okay. So when the guy, another kill. So when he comes in and he kills the doctor and the man in the suit, it was very easy.
Oh, yeah.
He's just like, and then cracks his nose out, which was ridiculous. But during this, and then he goes out into the car and he blows himself up. He pours the liquid and blows himself up. And at that point, you're like, this is absurd because we don't know they're robots.
Right.
Like this guy, this is just so bizarre. But what I'm trying to get to is, I don't know if you noticed, you probably did, the fireman's hat.
Oh, no.
Okay. So I had to rewind it because I was like, is his hat felt? So I rewound it. There's a fireman in there pretending to talk. And every time he nods, the red shield on the fireman hat is going up and down like a piece of felt. And I was just thinking, it's just so obvious. And it's so like, this is not a fireman. It felt like a movie I just made with my kids. It's like, TT, we need a fireman's hat. She built one. That's what happened.
Can you make us one?
Can you make us a fireman hat? And every time it was just flopping back and forth and back and forth. I was just cracking up.
Oh my God. No, right now I want to get, I actually didn't hate him setting himself on fire. I was like, oh, this is scary. Cause again, you don't know that he's a robot. I was like, what's happening? That was the most interesting thing up until that point. I was like, okay, what I want to say is that I am just so flabbergasted by this character, Dr. Chalice. The first thing that we see is he is kind of not present in his kid's life. Like, he shows up and he gets paged back to the hospital, which is fine. He's busy. And his ex-wife fucking hates him. And she is like over the top hates him, right?
Yeah. For
a little while. And we're like, okay, that seems like it's a little bit much, but whatever. He's like not involved in their life. So he goes back to the hospital and he's tending to this guy, and then they leave the room and he's talking to the nurse, and she's like, I need to go take a nap. And he's like, yeah, you want to take one with me? And she's like, oh, whatever. They leave the room, and he grabs her ass and says, where did I write it down? I just was like, this is the most casual workplace sexual harassment of my entire life. And I know that it was a different time, but I cannot watch this movie in 2022, not having seen it before this moment, and be okay with this. Like, he and I showed Jade and Jade gasped. And I was like, that is shocking, right? I even told him, I even described the scene to him, and watching it, he gasped again. And I was like, what the fuck are we watching, right? So he grabs her ass, and what does he say, Felicia? Do you remember? He was like, I should have married you instead of my wife. And she goes like, oh, don't play with me, like I play for keeps or something. And I just was like, Jesus fucking Christ. And there's like 87 more examples that we'll get to, but I'll pause there and let you talk about this if you have any thoughts.
Okay, so this particular, I laughed. I didn't think of it from a workplace sexual harassment point of view. I think only because I was going into it just knowing how old the movie was, and some of the stuff that are in these older movies, and we've talked about it before, some of the things that people say, some of the it's just, it is insane that was okay. So when that happened, I was like, geez, that was the first, because I didn't remember anything about this movie, thinking, going back to like his wife was really hard on him. And we don't know for sure just yet if he's a total douchebag. Right. He had to work. You get the feeling that he works late. He's a doctor, emergency room doctor, he's on call. He's on call. Pager. And a dude just blew himself up, and she was not letting him talk. So you're like, gosh, cut the guy a break. But then there's that scene, and you're like, oh, this fucking guy. Maybe this is why he's not going to pick up his kids, because he's like messing around with all the nurses and shit.
Oh my God. And it doesn't stop there either.
Oh no, God, no.
Because listen, here's the thing. I feel like I can kind of be like, okay, yes, it was that old of a movie. Things were different. But this is one of those times that me watching this movie in 2022, not ever having seen it before, it's probably the biggest reason why I really hated this movie, is because we are meant to root for this person. This is our protagonist. We are supposed to be so invested in this guy that we want to see him win, and I wanted to watch this motherfucker die. Yeah. I was like, kill his ass. Halfway through the movie, I was like, fine, that'd be great. I don't think they're going to do that, but if they did, that would be a major, sure, I'm down. Because this guy he's not like the worst ever, but he's fucking bad. This is a bad portrayal of men. And again, I say that from 2022, but Jesus fucking Christ. The next interaction that he has is with like a coroner's assistant or something, I think is what I got from that.
Oh, the lady. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And they have this weird interaction where she is like, oh yeah, I'll look into this for you. And he says, yeah, thanks, I appreciate it. And she's like, I was always good at moonlighting, wasn't I? Which I don't fully know what she's saying there. And then he says, hey, do you still have that? You do, don't you? And she's like, oh yes, I do. Never explained. I don't know what they're talking about. Maybe it's lingerie. I don't fucking know. Something sexual, obviously. And then they go, he does his arm around her move. He does that to everybody in this movie. He keeps putting his arm around women. He's just touching women left and right, and it is very inappropriate. And so he puts his arm around her, and they're walking out. Interrupt me if you have.
I was just going to say, yeah, with the first one, I thought, oh, maybe he's seeing her. Now I'm recalling, maybe he's divorced, his wife hates him, and this is his new love interest.
Right.
Then we go into the coroner lady, and he puts his arm around her. And because at first I was like, are they flirting? But he's with that other nurse. And then he puts his arm around her, and I'm like, oh shit, he's sleeping with her too. Oh my God, this guy.
No, I got the impression that they used to sleep together or something. I don't even know what any of that fucking means. I'm really good at moonlighting. Do you still have that thing? Oh, yes, I do. Yeah, sure you do. And then they go to separate, and she kisses him on the lips. Kisses him on the lips. I was like, okay, that's weird. Then they walk away from each other, and she's like, is your ex-wife still driving you crazy and making you drink? That's it. That's the end of the conversation. She's like, are you okay? He doesn't even answer. End of scene. Okay. Whatever.
Yeah, so he's hooking up with all of these women. I do agree
over town.
Yeah, what you're saying is this is just an unlikable main character, and it doesn't get any better. Don't really care about him at all. The only thing that's keeping it going of wanting him to find out what's going on is because, well, for me personally, is because I didn't want all the kids to die on Halloween night. I didn't even care about finding out about her dad. I didn't care about the girl or her dad or anybody. I just didn't want all the kids to die because they're the ones wearing the masks.
Right. You buy her motivation because it's her dad who died and it's like these mysterious circumstances. You don't buy his motivation. Why would he give so much of a shit? Want to go figure out what's happening? It just doesn't make sense. And he, again, leaves his like kids and like doctor responsibilities completely just fucking up and runs away to go like chase this thing. It just didn't make sense. It was like, why?
How evil are Irish people, man? The evil Irish that came over.
I guess.
The whole town of this, Irish people have made this little town and they're all evil. What a very weird way.
What? Why? And also, why do only 1.5 people in the entire town have an Irish accent? Like that made no sense until you learn that they're all robots. And then I was like, oh, okay, maybe, I guess.
Like, why couldn't it just be like a town?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that it was Shamrock whatever, but so what? There's Shamrock milk and butter and there's like cheese. Like, it didn't have to be a whole town of Irish settlers.
Right, why?
That are evil around this mask store.
Probably just because of Celtic reasons. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. The evil Celtic Irish people.
Celtic is so kind of like pagan or something. I don't know. Yeah, that made no sense to me.
Oh, my gosh. There was absolutely no character development. So we get the girl comes in and I giggled a little bit because she comes in and she's like, what happened to my father? And the police chief goes, oh, we have all our resources into it. We are looking into this. And she went, yeah, right. And I said to Steve, why is she so like mean to the police? Like, she literally just walked in. The whole room is filled with police. So that's a good sign. At least people are on it. And he's like, we have every man on it. Yeah, right. Well, why are you distrusting of them so much? Like, what happened?
Yeah, to you. Yeah,
Yeah, what happened to you?
Yeah, totally. It was weird. This whole exchange was really weird because she walks in and she's like, and he's like, ma'am, I wouldn't do that if I were you. And she goes, I want to see him. And he goes, okay. Like, pulls back the sheet. Okay. That was weird. And then he's like, it's been a long night and you've driven a long way. And when I call you, hopefully I'll have some answers. Or like, it just was weird. The dialogue was so fucking not natural for anybody to say.
No, she wasn't asking any questions whatsoever.
No.
Like, what happened? Who was here? Why is my dad's nose like that? How did he die? What's going on? There's nothing. Just, yeah, right. And then she ran out into the hallway and is weeping in the hallway. Christ. And then here comes the doctor. Hey, baby.
Look at this hot little piece of ass.
Yeah.
It's a good thing we got some fresh meat in here because I fucked everybody in town.
Yes.
So that's how it felt to me, is that I'm watching this guy like see her and be like, oh, she's hot, you know? Like, oh God. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to be hung up on this for the first, because the first half of this movie feels like that's it. That's the entire first half of the movie, is like this man is trying to seduce this woman somehow successfully. Yeah. Because then now she's all interested in him. And I'm like, what?
It's almost like they wrote a main character for the stereotypical frat guy. I'm not saying all guys in frats are horrible. I'm just saying when we think of a frat guy and we think of a womanizer, this type of stereotype of a frat guy, that the character was written for that audience because they would like this guy who has all the ladies and is a doctor. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because it is very like, I thought they were going for like a Burt Reynolds thing too, because he has like this
007. He's kind of like a, 007.
Okay.
That guy
I don't know if I've seen
sleeps with lots of lots of women, but he's like
right.
GQ.
Okay, I see.
You know what I mean? Like, he was not that.
No, he wasn't. Oh, God.
So they go to the hotel.
Oh, my God. Before even this, can I just say,
yes.
He calls his ex-wife, to be like, I'm leaving and I can't tell you where I'm going. And then he gets in the car with a 6-pack of beer. And I just was like, okay, clearly, if you watch the first 40 minutes of this movie, you're like, this guy is trying so hard to fuck this girl. You know it with every fiber of your being. Because it's like, he's obviously picking up alcohol to bring along to the trip. So that like offended me. I was like, that motherfucker just got a 6-pack of beer before he got in the car. Anyway, yeah, they go to the town.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because that leads nicely to what I was going to say. Next is they go into the town. They pretend they're a couple, I guess they're pretending. And they go in, they get a hotel room because they're going to stay there and then go visit the factory. And when they're driving through, it's very obvious that all the people in the town are in on it because everyone's staring and watching. And there's there's 2 other couples that are, or there's a woman and then this other couple who own Halloween shops or whatever. They're buying Halloween masks and the orders are back ordered. So they're going to go to the factory to pick it up. So they go in, and the first thing I have here is, okay, this is random, I know. She jumps out of the shower and uses the comforter off the fucking bed.
As a towel?
So gross. I put, ew, she used the comforter.
Why would you do that? It's so gross.
Okay, so we're mad about his, So when they arrive, she only has like this little tiny case because they're not really a couple that traveled out here, right? She just has this in her car, but he has some beer and she has a sexy little negligee. This is what she's carrying around.
Yes. That is the only thing in that fucking little box.
The negligee. And then
she's just as bad. She's ready to fuck.
Yeah, she's ready.
No, I'm kidding.
So then they're like, all of a sudden, I don't even know. It happened so fast. There was some kind of they said something and then boom, they're kissing.
Oh my God, no. Back it up because I wrote down the exact quote.
Okay.
I also was like, good thing she happened to have this fucking lingerie in her car for this moment that she meets and falls in love with a fucking stranger. Okay, sure. Whatever. Anyway, let's back up because I wrote it down. This was probably the craziest part in the entire movie. I actually had to pause it and come tell Jade about it. So they go back to the hotel and the guy is like, hey, do you want me to get another room? And she's like, well, we pretended to be a couple. Like, wouldn't that be suspicious? And he's like, well, yeah, but I could sleep on the floor if it makes you more comfortable. Like, it would be better than, or I could sleep in the car. It'd be more comfortable than sleeping on the floor, I think is what he says. And then she says, where do you want to sleep, Dr. Chalice?
Yes.
And he says, that's a dumb question, Miss Grimbridge. And kisses her on the mouth.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad. That was excellent, Tawny. Thank you. They're kissing, and then he's sucking her nipples.
And then boom. How long have they known each other, Felicia? Would you guess like maybe 8 hours? Yes. 10 hours?
Kissing to the nipples. Literally. Steve he loves to make jokes that are really inappropriate. Okay. He said, we were cracking up and he goes, you know what, honey? Horror movies are what life should be like. Hey, let's go investigate let's go investigate the death of my dad. Let's suck on the nips before we do that.
Suck on these nips. What? What?
So easy, so effortless.
Oh, yeah.
This is like, neither of them cared about her dad.
No.
Neither of them. The movie is not about the masks.
No.
It's about them getting together.
Exactly. Like, that's the whole fucking goal of this thing. It feels like a stupid, like, and when I say stupid, I read a lot of romance books. I like that subgenre or that genre. this feels like the stupidest fucking setup for ever. Like I'm
know what it's like? Porn, like a porno.
It is straight up like porn. Yeah.
Hi. Oh, I dropped something. We're fucking now in every hole in your body. It's like there's no nothing.
Totally. We just met. She's like, we better pretend to be a couple. Wouldn't it be weird if we slept in different rooms? Like, we should probably, whatever. But I was just like, what? And also the lead up to this moment is so awkward because she's like, we should probably stay for like another night though, right? Or I don't remember what happens. But he goes, oh, yeah, well, I think these clothes could hold out for one more day. And then that motherfucker goes and gets more liquor. And I'm just like, this is it felt so predatory. It's not that she wasn't like also into this, but I just was like, fucking ew. But also, let's just mention at this moment, there's got to be a 20-year age gap. So,
he says they're in bed after having sex, after obviously this whole thing was planned and prepped. And I don't know if they were trying to make it seem like, oh, he actually has a soul, but that's not how it came out. He was like, wait, how old are you? They joked. And she's like, I'm whatever. I forgot how old she was.
I'm older than I look, is what she said.
I'm older than I look. And then they giggle and then they start French kissing and stuff like that again. Yeah. This is just like, what a scumbag. Just like gross. And then he goes and gets more liquor. Yeah.
Straight up. I was like, this guy obviously wants to fuck this girl. So he goes off on this thing, gets liquor so that, they can get drunk. Again, it's not like she's not into this. Obviously she is, but it just felt so fucking predatory. So you lost me completely in the first 25 minutes. I fucking hated this guy. That's what I wrote down at 25 minutes. I said, I hate this man. I want this guy to eat it. Get his ass.
Then he goes outside after having sex with her who, whoa, wait a second. Maybe you're underage.
Yeah.
Ha ha ha. Goes outside and starts talking to the biologist lady friend. And she's like, they're like, yeah, let's have dinner together. Right. She was like, you take me dinner, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And he's so
and I'm just not fucking buying it, y'all. This guy is not wooing the ladies, okay? Maybe it's because he's a doctor and has a bunch of money, but I'm like, clearly this was written by somebody who does not know what attracts women to men who are attracted to men. What?
Yeah, Burt Reynolds is playing this part. Okay, maybe. I'm gonna buy this. Because he was quite the charmer. But this dude...
And you rewrite it a little bit so that he's not,
a predator.
A fuckboy. And, but the age gap is so... what would you... I mean, you'd peg her at maybe, 24 at the fucking oldest, right?
Yeah, for sure.
At the oldest. And how old is he? 45, probably?
Yeah,
right?
I would think. I would buy that.
It's got to be 20 years. I'm just like, what the fuck? And now suddenly she's totally in love with him. I mean, they're in love with each other. They're like... it made no fucking sense. I just hated...
and he's not in love with her, really, because he's making dinner plans with the other lady.
Well, that's true. But he does go through hell to save her from because they kidnap her later,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he's also trying to save the children, I guess, but...
He has kids.
Ugh. Who have those masks. We saw that earlier in the movie, but...
Oh, yeah. By the way, there's these masks in the movie.
Right.
The kids wear them. And then somehow, once that Halloween commercial's on, it activates the tag and snakes and spiders and all this stuff comes out of their heads. So the little kids' heads.
I had so many fucking questions. How does it kill them? We never get an answer. It becomes like a weird regular pumpkin. Maybe it crushes their head. I don't know. Is it a portal to hell? Why are all these insects and snakes coming out?
It almost it rots their heads like a rotted pumpkin.
Okay.
Like almost and all that. But I don't know. Like all these things weird. Come out. I think they explain it like the magic part of the Stonehenge rock. I mean, come on.
I mean, I guess, yeah. I feel like after that, after up till what we talked about, there's a very long, boring. The first 40 minutes are all kind of you're at least what the fuck am I watching? It kind of in a funny way. And then it just fucking, there's nothing that happens for a very long time. And then they get captured and the shit happens at the factory. That's what you're talking about, is we see the example of the kid's mask killing him.
Yeah.
And the mom dies of fright. She faints and dies.
But then all the snakes and stuff eat,
the dad.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So this
before
is a big
we
deal.
go there, though, the woman next door, when you'd mentioned it, with the laser beam comes out of the tag, and so the tag falls off the mask, and she's kind of looking at it and messing with it, and a laser beam shoots out of the tag into her face, and her face melts. It's so hilarious. And I said to Steve, I was like, oh, that's why on pillows and mattresses it says do not remove the tag. It was just so absurd. It was
so absurd.
Hilarious.
I will say, I'm glad you brought us back here. This is the one thing I liked about the movie, though. This is the one thing. I didn't, obviously the laser shooting her in the mouth didn't look great, but the face that got blown open was gory as fuck. And I was like, oh, okay, I don't know. If this is where we're going, maybe I could be okay with this. Because her lips are like curled back. You see her teeth, they're all fucked up and like rearranged because she just got fucked up by this thing. And then that bug crawls out of her mouth. And I went, because I was like watching it and I was like, okay. And then the bug comes out and I go, okay.
Yeah.
Like, where are we going?
Why bugs and snakes? Because I agree with you. I had the same reaction you did. I liked this part. There was the bug, and I'm like, well, I don't know, is the hotel real dirty or something? But then when we see later with the kid and all the snakes and stuff, why not just have the laser beam shoot the kids in the back of the head and melt their heads like that woman versus a plethora of insects and snakes and stuff coming from
out.
where? Coming from where?
From where? I don't know. It makes no fucking sense. Maybe that was before children dying on screen was, maybe that was not cool. And so they couldn't show the same. I don't know. I have no fucking idea. It's never explained.
I'm trying to remember. Where's the part with that epic, homeless man. Epic beheading.
Oh, yeah.
The beheading.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had to remember.
His head off.
Yeah, they just straight up ripped it off. That was earlier. That was before. I think that was before they have sex. I think he gets the more liquor before they even have sex the first time. Because remember, there's this weird curfew that means nothing and never comes back up ever. They're like, everybody go back in your house. Curfew's at 6 or whatever. And he's out past curfew, which I was like, okay, apparently that means nothing. And then that's when he runs into the homeless man who gives us a lot of good background exposition. Thank God he was there to tell us more information about this town, this factory.
I'll give you one of the bad reviews. I wrote some of them down, this particular one, because it's related to what we're talking about. So Pop Matters journalist J.C. Masick wrote that the film, I wrote, for some reason, the font on all my notes, this one is teeny weeny. The film features no serial killers or slashers of any kind. Still, this could have been somewhat interesting, or at least not condemnable, had the film been any good. It's not. Almost every time it starts to get to the point where we might actually become engrossed in the film, director Tommy Lee Wallace throws in something corny like a human decapitation scene that shows just how much the producers invested into latex. Seriously. Could the special effects look a little more fake, please? I was just getting to the point where I could almost tell the robots from the real people. I just liked that about the latex. That's the whole reason I wrote that quote down.
Yeah, no, totally.
Because it was like, and it was just so easy and hilarious. Just another little hilarious piece.
Same thing with the eye gouge earlier, right? Oh, okay.
And then how about the most epic throw of a mask onto the camera by the great doctor, completely tied down to his elbows, flings the mask all the way up across the room into the corner, and it lands perfectly on the video camera.
I know I showed Jay that, and I was like, see what it is this guy is not only good at fucking women, he is also good at throwing masks over cameras.
Yes.
Okay? Those are his two skills.
And then he kicks the TV bizarrely, just crushes, and then he's able to saw himself out of there. And
right.
Oh,
thank God he saves himself. Ugh. I also, just what the fuck was this interaction? I'm moving backwards a little bit, but what was the interaction with, like, he's fighting the robot and he punches his hand through the robot and it becomes all like yucky and he realizes it's a robot. And then he's just fucking dead to the world. He just gives up on life. It's like they drugged him. He just can't do or say anything. He's just so sad.
Robot.
And so then they take that opportunity, I guess, to drag him around and tell him all about their plan.
Yes.
You know? We get to hear all about what's happening, even though it gives us absolutely no information. They've stolen a piece of Stonehenge. They're putting a piece of it in the masks, and he literally just says a piece of this can destroy things. That's it. That's all we fucking get.
No reason why. No reason why he wants to destroy things. Why, like, what's the motive here? He said, like, the ultimate prank. He mentioned something about the ultimate prank, but what?
But why? He says, and also I want to back up because in this moment, he says, what? This is the only thing that he says while he's given up on life. This given up on life section, Dr. Chalice says, why, Cochrane? Why? Cochrane says, do I need a reason? And then he goes on to say some reasons, kind of. He goes, I do like a practical joke. It's a joke on children. And then he says, oh, the last time that we did this, it was 3,000 years ago, and the hills ran red. It's a sacrifice, basically, where you kill a bunch of children on Halloween. The end. Why? But why? We never learn why. Like, what's the reason?
Is it for power? Are you going to get magical powers? Are you going to, like...
And, like, maybe that's the point. And it's just over my head because the first line he says is, do I need a reason? Maybe there's no reason that he needs. But why? I mean, just the insane amount of effort. You're going to build all these robots to replace an entire town, have Stonehenge fucking shipped to your, like, lair, and then you're going to, like, chip it off and put it in masks that you've probably spent the last, like, 20 years building up this mask business. What? Why? There's got to be a positive. You've got to get a reason out of this, but nothing. And somehow, everybody's just okay with that. I was like, if I was watching this movie made right now, people would be shitting all over this. They'd be pissed because there's, like, absolutely no reason. That's it. I'll shut up about that now.
No. I have some reviews about, well, first, before we move on, that Dr. Chalice throwing the mask over the video camera, it is a nod to Halloween 1, where making the image on the monitor seem to be peering through eye holes, just like when Michael Myers murders his sister while wearing the clown mask.
Okay. I guess.
No.
Yeah.
So since we're talking about, like, all these negatives, let me just share some of these negative reviews because some of them I think were perfect and funny. And so the New York Times reviewer Vincent Canby struggled to apply a definite label to the film's content. He remarks, Halloween 3 manages the not easy feat of being anti-children, anti-capitalism, anti-television, and anti-Irish all at the same time.
Totally.
Robert Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times wrote that the film...
Pro-mustache, though.
Was, pro-mustache and pro-sexual harassment.
Right. Okay.
Wrote that the film was a low-rent thriller from the first frame. This is one of those identikit movies assembled out of familiar parts from other better movies. And then Jim Harper called Wallace's plot deeply flawed. Harper argues any plot dependent on stealing a chunk of Stonehenge and shipping it secretly across the Atlantic is going to be shaky from the start. He noted there are 4 time zones across the United States, so the Western Seaboard has 4 hours to get the fatal curse-inducing advertisement off the air. Not a great plan. Harper was not the only critic unimpressed with the plot. Robert Ebert wrote as well, "What's Cochrane's plan? Kill the kids and replace them with robots? Why?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
There was a little bit of positivity, and it has over time become a cult classic, established its own reputation as a cult classic. But they're not like super positive. Tom Milne of Time Out thought that the new plot was refreshing, with the possibilities of the characters well and truly exhausted. Season of the Witch turns more profitability to a marvelously ingenious Nigel Neal tale of a toy maker and his fiendish plan to restore Halloween to its witch cult origins. Hugely enjoyable. Your review was more enjoyable than the movie, my friend.
100%. Yeah. What? I mean, I guess I could see how you'd be like, oh, this is refreshing a little bit, but like, but is it, but was it really? It just doesn't, the whole toy maker thing does not even make sense to me because number one, how do you jump from toy maker to robot maker? Those are not the same fucking thing. Okay, that does not make any fucking sense. And then also, he has a scary like old woman knitting robot at some point in this movie that our hero comes across. This was also kind of a freaky moment. I was like, great, this seems like what the fuck's going on. And then he mentions like, oh, this is priceless. It's from Germany. So then I questioned, did he even make these fucking robots? Did somebody else make them? And then what was the whole thing about being a toy maker? This just nothing fucking makes sense.
The only last semi-positive was many of the special effects were meant to emphasize the theme of the practical joke that peppers the plot. So New York Times film critic Vincent Canby notes, the movie features a lot of carefully executed, comically horrible special effects. Canby stood as one of the few critics of the time to praise Wallace's directing. Mr. Wallace clearly has a fondness for the cliches he is parodying. Sorry, you know what word I'm talking about. And he does it with style.
So this is the one thing that I'll say maybe went over my head because I am generally, and we've talked about this many times, I don't think either of us are really fans of like making too much fun of the genre. Like I can take some satire. Satire is fine with me, but when it feels like you're just going wacky over the top with tropes, I'm not a fan of that in general. Sometimes it can work. And so I started to think, is that what this is for the 80s? Like, was this that like self-aware? I kind of don't think so. Like, I think in the end, it didn't feel like it was self-aware enough that that's what it was trying to do, you know?
Yeah, I don't think so. I didn't read anything that, except for that one quote where he was saying, oh yeah, this parody. There was a piece I'll say here, like I don't think it was supposed to be ridiculous and hilarious. They talked about, so right here, Hilt told Harmitz that we didn't exactly have a whole lot of money for things like props. So we asked Post, who had provided the shape mask for the earlier Halloween movies, if we could work out a deal. The skull and the witch masks were adaptations of standard post-studio masks, but the jack-o'-lantern was created specifically for Halloween 3. Post linked, I'm talking about Post like in the movie production. Post.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, guys. Linked the masks of the film to the popularity of masks in the real world. They said, quoted, every society in every time has had its masks that suited the mood of the society, and from the masked balls to clowns to makeup. People want to act out a feeling inside themselves, angry, sad, happy, old. It may be a sad commentary on present day America that horror masks are the best sellers. So it was almost like, I think they just didn't invest a lot into them. I don't know what was majority of the budget, like the laser beams and stuff. I mean, it was in the 80s. Yeah, maybe it was really expensive to do that because they're saying like, I mean, I know $2.5 million is not a large budget, but yeah, anyways,
Yeah.
I got the feeling of they just didn't have a lot of budget to put into it, so they did their best.
Yeah.
And not that they were trying to make a joke of it.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking. And also this other bit of piece, I read this several places. Halloween 3, originally what they were going to do is John Carpenter wasn't thinking he was going to make another Halloween Michael Myers movie, but what they thought might be great was a kind of like, what is it called? An anthology about Halloween. So all the stories would be around Halloween, like Michael Myers, but not Michael Myers. So these are the scary masks. And then there'd be another movie about some other Halloween story. So that's what they were looking to do. But after this film's really disappointing reception, they brought Michael Myers back 6 years later for Halloween 4. But there's a note here. It departs from the slasher genre, which the rest of the installments were a part of, and instead features a witchcraft theme with science fiction aspects. So John Carpenter and Deborah Hill believed that the Halloween series could have been an anthology series like The Twilight Zone that centered around Halloween night, with each sequel containing its own characters and its own setting and its own storyline. Director Wallace stated that there are many ideas for Halloween-themed films, some of which could have potentially created a number of their own sequels, and that The Season of the Witch was meant to be the first of those.
Oh, gotcha.
That launching that off. A little fun fact.
Glad they didn't do that.
Right? I mean, I don't mind the idea of like Twilight Zone, but all wrapped around Halloween night. But it just, I'm glad they brought Michael back because I think that's all they had there.
Yeah, I feel like it's a more interesting story, but I also don't like anthologies, so I'm biased.
I really liked the Twilight Zone, so I didn't. I liked that idea. But Dick Warlock, who played Michael Myers in Halloween 2, played the android assassin, while an uncredited Jamie Lee Curtis cameos as both the voices of the curfew announcer and the telephone service provider.
Oh, I did not pick up on that.
The themes were what they were, not themes, that's the wrong word, but what they really wanted to portray or bring out in this movie is suspense and tension. They really wanted to help build that suspense and tension. I can't talk today. And explore the topic of violence against children.
Okay. Not even close, dude. Nothing about this movie said anything about children to me, other than maybe the commercialization of toys and masks for children. That's one of the other things that maybe I was like, I could see where they were going here with capitalism or something, this is a problem if everybody buys the same thing from the same person and that person has nefarious intent, maybe, but that is not, we don't spend any fucking time on that. Weird.
Yeah. As Steve mentioned, he's like, do you think they did this whole sex thing because, horror movies typically have some sexy naked ladies. Somehow the ladies are going to be taking off their clothes. But I thought in other movies, they did it way better. Like, for example, someone is showering or, I believe her name was Annie from Halloween, spilt all that stuff. And so she had to take off her shirt. I don't know. Just happen to have a sexy negligee in my car and nothing else. And just we're investigating my dad's death, sucking on the nipples.
Yeah.
it's so.
Sucking on the nipples.
It's so.
Oh my God. It's a really good thing that girl got her face blasted in, or else they would have totally forgot about her dad entirely.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they
would have never left that hotel.
They would have bought a house in that town, maybe.
Yeah.
And maybe would have had to sleep with everybody in that town.
Who are robots, though, so.
Were all the people robots or just the men in suits?
I don't think everybody was, but I think a huge amount of people were. It seemed like the people who lived in the town, the guy who ran the hotel wasn't, right? the guy who ran the gas station, that was like out of town, to be fair.
Who else do we even see? Because we see people looking out the windows.
I don't know. Maybe those people are, but we never get to talk to them, or, no one talks to them and we don't get to see anything with them. But I feel like everybody who works at the factory, which is primarily who we see, those have got to all be robots.
They're all men in suits, though. It's almost like the robots are the dudes in the suits, right? Or the lab coats.
I don't know, because in the last minutes,
they'll
she's
try
a robot.
to make it exciting.
She's a robot. Ellie becomes a robot. Or maybe she was a robot the whole time. We don't know. But
I think they made her a robot when she was lying down.
When they kidnapped her.
Yeah.
That's what I think, too. Because that would be too fucking much of a why would you even... Because then I was like, maybe they did this to lure him out here so that they could kill him. But why do that? That makes no sense. You can just send your robot assassin.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No. I couldn't handle... Can I move on to the end of this movie?
Yes.
It was so, as soon as he picked her up, I was like, she's going to be a robot. Whatever. And then she was a robot. But we had 4 fucking times, 4 jump scares. She grabbed his face, attacks him outside, the arm in the car, and then gets outside and is attacked by her body. Why? Just like the 3rd time it happened, I was like, oh my fucking God, just stop. Let this movie fucking end. Are you kidding me? Please, I was frustrated about it. Why do we have to do this so many times? And what the fuck is he doing? He thinks he's going to get back in this car and drive it because it seems like it's totaled. But why would he get back in it to begin with? I don't know. It just, none of this shit made sense at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then he runs off to the gas station calls and tries to get people to take the commercials off the air, which some of them do somehow, I guess, even though he's talking nonsense and no one's believing him. And then he just is screaming into the phone. This is the last minute of the movie. Stop it, stop it, stop it, screaming at the last channel. And I was like, that's how I feel about this fucking movie. Just stop it. Save us all and stop this fucking movie. But as he says that, he looks into the camera. He looks directly in your eyeballs. And that is another moment that I felt like, is this movie very self-aware? What is happening? I don't know.
I just love that ending to the episode too. It was so well said. Oh my God.
I feel that I got to say all of my complaints about this movie.
I'm so curious about your score. Is this going to be the lowest rated yet?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yep. Yep. And I'm so glad that you didn't have this nostalgic, because I was worried kind of. I was I thought Felicia's going to hate this also, probably. But she did watch it as a kid, and I know how much that can mean to you, and how it can have a hold on your heart. But I was I don't know what she's going to remember from this movie. It's not any of the bad parts, I'm sure, What I'm curious about yours.
Yeah, I'm going to need to.
Because I know I'm going low.
I was looking at these different scores, and I really didn't like Pet Sematary 2019, did I? That seems...
No, you're pissed.
I scored that real low. I feel like I need to rewatch that. That's crazy. I just have to ignore that one. Okay. Let me see. Do you know what you're going to rate it already?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. What are you going to rate this movie?
Okay. I am going to give this movie a 0.5.
Oh, shit. Oh.
And the only reason it gets a 0.5 is because I liked that shot of the woman who got her face blasted in. I liked that. And I did think at some level, on a teeny tiny scale, this was a good idea. Masks sold to mass population that blow up. I liked that kernel of an idea. Aside from that, this movie is, I just fucking hated it, dude. I hated it. It's everything that I hate. It didn't make sense. There were no characters that I could root for. And it just got fucking zany. And it didn't even get zany in a way that was aware. It just fucking flew off the rails. It was insane. But the hard thing is, and I talked about this on our last episode with Paige for my best friend's exorcism, you and I, we actually don't have a good, we don't have like a good fleshed out scale for the bottom part of the 1 to 5 scale. Because we don't typically pick movies that we don't like or we think we're not going to like. So like at some point, I don't know, we never feel like doing this again because we haven't done it so far. But it makes me wonder, like, we should probably try to establish the 0 to 3 scale better because it's hard to rate something that you didn't like in that area, I guess. But I feel like this is pretty bad because the worst rating I had given before this was Otis, and I gave that a 1. But at least Otis had some, like, entertaining moments, and it did feel like it was kind of self-aware in some moments. Like, I could see what it was trying to do. It just wasn't successful in it. This movie was just wild and also somehow boring as fuck through like 50% of it. Anyway, I'm sorry that I hated this so much. What are you going to rate it?
I'm going to rate it a 1.5.
Okay.
Because I think that, like I mentioned, the nostalgia pieces didn't save it by any means. But when they came up, I did remember, oh, yeah, I remember why I liked this and why it affected me as a 6-year-old child.
Right.
By the way, this is the last time I saw the movie. I was 6 or
Well, you were 6. Okay. I wondered.
I haven't seen it since. I just remember really liking it, being scared by it. So, and I do like the story. The story idea, parts of the story idea, just like Tawny mentioned, with the masks and the commercial and things like that. I believe I did enjoy it more than Otis because there's a couple things like, because I was laughing so much.
Yeah.
And just of the absurdity, where I remember walking away from Otis and Pet Sematary 2, which I know I should probably watch again, but feeling angry, but not like an enjoyable angry. Like I just was, like you were talking about Halloween Kills. Are you fucking kidding me? And that kind of irritated anger I don't enjoy.
Yeah.
And so I do feel like it was a more fun experience, but still low.
This was fun to talk about, though.
Yeah. I think if it was Otis was a 1, if I would have rated it a 1, then I probably would have done this one a 1.25. So it was really just going up a little bit from Otis. And I can't even take Pet Sematary 2 in consideration because I'm surprised that I rated it so low. So I just kind of ignored that.
Yeah, I know we talk about this a lot. I do think it's worth a rewatch. I think there were things that you didn't like, but it was because we watched them back to back and you were just like, I'm done. I know this story, and they did change quite a bit. But I don't know. Maybe you won't. You know, we talk about this with The Lodge too. You're like, I want to rewatch that, but maybe you fucking just don't like those movies, and that's okay.
Well, if I watch it and I still don't like it, then okay, I feel better about it.
Yeah.
All right. So next week, you are doing the Evil Dead remake with Trevor.
Yes, from Film versus Movie again.
Yay. Yeah. I will be in California officiating my friend's wedding. So very excited about that. Me and all the girls are in the wedding. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then I will be back with Tawny for our Patreon pick at the end of the month. But yeah, next up is Trevor, Film versus Movie, the Evil Dead remake.
Yes, yeah. And we did an episode, Felicia and I, on this movie with Homies of Horror. So if you want to know how we both felt about it, you can go to their episode, and I highly recommend checking out their podcast if you haven't already. But we talked about it with them. But now we're going to do this episode for our podcast with Trevor. So yeah, definitely stay tuned for that.
And yeah, we would love it if you followed us and connected with us. So you can find us on Instagram at 2 Chicks and a Horror Flick. You could go to 2chicksandhorrorflick.com. Both of those places will lead you anywhere else you want to go. Any other social media platform. If you want to buy some merch, if you want to join our horror Discord community, we would love to have you. And what else, Tawny?
You can support the show by going to our Patreon or giving us a like, review, and subscribe on whatever podcatcher you're listening to us on. But yeah, that's it. So we hope you have such a good night in this spooky season, and we hope you're watching some horror movies.
Yes.
We hope you have such a good night. No nightmares.